My cousin stole $26,000 at her baby shower, so I blew up her whole life and found out my family was worse, and I never wanted to go to Marcy's baby shower in the first place. She'd sent the invitation 3 weeks prior, handwritten in pink ink on thick floral stationery, with a note at the bottom that read, "It would mean so much if just this once you weren't selfish." That was how she phrased it. One big, guilt-wrapped present disguised as sentiment. I knew what it meant. Show up, spend money, smile through your teeth. I'd done it before. Birthdays, engagements, even that fake breakup brunch she threw when her last boyfriend moved out. Still, I showed up. I always did. It was held at a rental house just outside Savannah, one of those plantation-style homes people book for Instagram photos and bridal events. The driveway was lined with pastel balloons. Inside, everything looked perfect. Lace tablecloths, sugar cookies shaped like booties, mason jars with name tags tied to the handles. I brought the punch, tipped the caterer, even paid for half the damn cake 2 nights before when she called me crying because the bakery wouldn't hold it without a deposit. The first hour passed in a blur of small talk and clinking glasses. Guests asked me if I was the sister. No, I said, just the cousin. The single cousin. The childless one. The one with a nice quiet job up in Raleigh who always looks so calm. Calm. That's what they think when you've spent a decade managing everyone else's mess. When you keep your voice even and your savings untouched by impulse. I was calm because I had to be. I didn't trust anyone else with the breakable parts. It happened when I went to check the time. I pulled my phone from my bag, tapped the screen, and a notification popped up so sharp it felt like someone cracked a bone in my chest. Bank alert. Transfer of $26,000 completed via online payment. My heart stuttered. I blinked, tapped into my app, and stared in silence. Gone. All of it. Just gone. I didn't speak. I didn't scream. I just stood there in the middle of the living room, gripping my phone like it might dissolve in my hand. My cousin Marcy strolled over in a floaty dress with little sunflowers stitched across the hem and a flute of sparkling juice in her hand. "Hey," she said, her voice high and airy like always. "You okay? You look like you saw a ghost or something." I didn't answer. I just turned the screen toward her. Her eyes flicked to it. She didn't even pretend to be surprised. She sipped her drink, shrugged one shoulder, and said, "Oh, come on. It's not that serious. It's just a little gift from you to me." Just like that. Like she was talking about a borrowed sweater or a dinner bill I forgot to split. I felt my pulse crawling up my neck like fire ants. "You stole from me," I said, my voice low but steady. She rolled her eyes, took another sip, and leaned against the arm of the couch like we were discussing weather. "Stole? Wow. Dramatic much? You always say family should help family." I just went ahead and helped myself. I was frozen in place. My brain couldn't process the casual venom in her tone. She kept going. "You used your phone last night to pay the caterer. Left it in my kitchen charging. I saw your PIN. Real secure, by the way. For digits? Come on." She laughed. Laughed. "Anyway, it's already spent," she added. "So what now? You gonna cry? Make a scene?" Around us, people were still chatting, tossing jokes back and forth about nursery colors and cravings. But all I heard was the distant roar of blood in my ears. My fingers tightened around my bag strap as I stood. "Perfect," I said, just loud enough for her to hear. "Now watch what happens next." Right on cue. The door swung open with a slow creak, and her fiancé Warren stepped inside, pale and out of breath. He looked like he'd run from the car. In his hand was a printed receipt and an envelope. "Marcy," he said, glancing from me to her. "Why is there a $26,000 transfer from your cousin's bank account to your PayPal marked refund, baby gift con?" The room went quiet, like somebody had shut off the sound on a television. Marcy's face dropped all pretense, and for the first time, I saw something behind the performance, fear. She reached for the paper. "Dubby, what are you even talking about?" she stammered, that old, fake confused tone creeping back in. I didn't. But he stepped back, held the paper away from her. "Don't lie to me. This isn't the first time I've heard things from your family. And now this." Aunt Rose gasped. A cupcake fell. It was chaos, but the quiet kind. The kind that simmers just before it explodes. I lifted my phone again. She transferred the money from my account after snooping on my phone, I said clearly, turning to the growing circle of relatives gathering around. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is theft. Marcy's mother looked scandalized, her lipstick trembling at the corner. Tell me this is a joke, she said. But her daughter wasn't denying anything. She straightened up, brushed her hair behind one ear, and said, I was going to pay it back. She just wouldn't give it to me when I asked. You never asked, I said. You took, like you always do. Marcy turned to the others now, desperate to take control of the narrative. She's always been like this, melodramatic, bitter. She didn't even want to come today. She's just jealous because I'm starting a family and she's still alone. My voice dropped to a whisper meant only for her. You begged me to come. Remember that note? It would mean so much if just this once you weren't selfish. Yeah, I kept it. She was blinking rapidly now, mascara starting to pool beneath her eyes. Funny thing, I added, unzipping my bag. I brought something too. I pulled out a folder, neatly labeled. The top page, a printed bank statement. Let's talk about that time you needed $1,100 for a dental emergency. Oh, and that $700 you said was for your rent after you lost your job. Except you didn't lose it, did you? You just wanted a new couch. Gasps now. Murmurs. Warren stared at her like she'd turned into someone he didn't recognize. You lied to me, he said softly. About everything. She stepped toward him, pleading, but he held up a hand. Don't. And just like that, the party cracked. People put down drinks. Conversations died. Nobody looked at her the same. And for the first time in my entire life, I stopped being quiet. I stopped being useful. I started being done. I walked out of that house without saying another word, but I didn't make it far. I didn't even reach the edge of the driveway before I heard her voice again, sharp and shrill, cutting through the thick spring air like a splintered window pane. You think this is over? Marcy screamed, barefoot on the porch now, holding her belly like it made her untouchable, like the baby was her moral shield. You think I'm the only one who's been in your pockets? I stopped mid-step. Something about her tone sliced straight through the boiling haze in my head. I turned slowly, met her eyes, watched the fury flicker into something crueler. What does that mean? I asked, not yelling, not shaking, just demanding. She crossed her arms, her dress wrinkled now, lipstick half wiped off, and gave the kind of bitter laugh I'd heard from her before, but this time it wasn't performative. Maybe ask your mom, she said, like a snake laying down a final bite. Ask her what really happened to that inheritance from your grandpa. Ask her what paid for the patio remodel and that fancy kitchen you weren't allowed to use. She vanished back into the house before I could get another word out, leaving me standing there, stuck between rage and disbelief. I don't remember the drive to my parents' place. It took maybe 20 minutes, but it could have been 2. My fingers stayed locked around the steering wheel the entire time, knuckles white, jaw clenched so tight it felt like my teeth would crack. The front door was open like they were expecting company. My mother sat in the kitchen, sipping tea from a cup with a chipped rose handle, calm as if the last 2 hours hadn't detonated half our lives. Hey, honey, she said, not even looking up. How was the baby shower? I dropped my bag onto the floor with a hollow thump and placed both hands flat on the table like I was bracing for a storm. Where's Dad? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. She blinked at me once, slowly. In the garage, I think. What's going on? I didn't hesitate. You stole my inheritance, I said. No patting. No gentle introduction. Just the truth, handed to her like a final exam she never thought I'd take. She set the teacup down too softly, like she thought moving slowly would make this go away. What? She asked, the word practically weightless. You used the money Grandpa left me, I said louder this time. And you told me he didn't leave anything, didn't you? Her lips pressed together in that same tight shape they used to make when I asked too many questions as a kid. That was a family decision, she said carefully, like she was handling a fragile dish. We were going through a hard time. Your father's job was uncertain, and there were bills, you know that. I stared at her, unblinking. You redid the bathroom, I said. I saw the receipts in the drawer. You used my college fund to pay off Dad's card, and upgrade your countertops. She didn't deny it. Not even once. She folded her hands neatly and gave me that expression I remembered too well, the one that said, "You're overreacting. Calm down. Be quiet." "You didn't need it," she said finally. "You had a good job, a stable career. Marcy was struggling. The baby, the house, it all adds up. We just needed a little help." "You didn't ask," I said, my voice dry and cracking at the edges. "You never asked. You just took." Again, she exhaled slowly, as if I were the one causing problems. "Were your parents? That money helped the whole family." "No," I said coldly. "It fed Marcy's delusions. It paid for your lavender backsplash, and it enabled both of you to act like I was some magical faucet that would never run dry." At that moment, my father stepped in from the garage, wiping his hands with a rag, eyes flicking between us like he'd walked in on a hostage negotiation. "What's happening?" he asked cautiously. I turned to him without hesitation. "You knew too, didn't you?" He froze, rag still clutched in one hand. "We were just trying to keep the family afloat," he said after a beat. "It was never meant to hurt you." "But it did," I snapped. "It's been hurting me for years." I reached into my bag, pulled out the folder I'd started compiling over the last few months. The statements, the overdraft alerts, the unauthorized transfers I'd convinced myself were bank glitches or forgotten purchases. I dropped it onto the table with a heavy slap. "You better pray this is all there is," I said. "Because if I find one forged signature, one more account opened in my name." My mother raised her voice, something she almost never did. "You wouldn't dare report your own family," she hissed. "Oh, I would," I said, grabbing my phone as it buzzed. A new message. From Marcy. I tapped it open, expecting a sob story or another barrage of rage. What I saw made my skin ice over. New credit account opened. $13,000 approved. Cosigner, Cecily A. My mother. "You opened a credit card in my name," I whispered, slowly turning to face her. Her expression didn't change. She blinked, then actually smiled. "It's just temporary," she said sweetly, like that changed anything. "We needed something for the nursery." "We?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "For Marcy." She nodded without shame. "She's having a baby. She needs support. She's family." "You committed identity fraud," I said, barely able to keep my hands from shaking. "You broke the law." She sighed like I was being exhausting. "You're so obsessed with money. You've lost sight of what matters." That was it. That was the last straw. I hit record on my phone, pointed it straight at her, and said, "Go ahead. Say that again. Say what you did. I want it on record." Before either of them could respond, another voice broke the moment. "I can confirm it all." We turned. Standing in the hallway, holding Marcy's phone, was Warren. "She passed out drunk after the shower," he said flatly. "I read everything. All the messages. She told your mom to do it. Said you wouldn't fight back. Said you'd cave like always." He stepped forward, placed the phone gently on the table like it was radioactive. "She planned the whole thing. The shower, the guilt trip, the money grab. And the worst part." He looked at me, voice shaking. "The baby isn't mine." No one spoke. Not my father. Not my mother. Not even me. The silence was deafening, like the world itself had stopped to listen. He continued. "She told me it was ours. Told me we'd raise it together. That it was a miracle. But I saw the messages. She was going to move in here, milk you dry, then vanish when the baby came." He turned to my parents then, his voice flat with disbelief. "She told you the baby was yours, didn't she? That you'd be its godparents. That you'd be involved forever." My mother didn't deny it. She just sat down, slowly, eyes locked on the floor. My father stared at the wall. "You lied to me," I whispered. "All of you. For years." And finally, I let the rage rise. Not a scream, not a breakdown. Just a slow, deliberate ending. "You think I won't press charges?" I said. "Try me." My mother opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "You don't get to lecture me anymore. You lost that right the moment you signed my name on a contract I never saw." And in that moment, I realized something I should have seen years ago. I was never their daughter. I was their solution, their bank, their scapegoat. But not anymore. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer before I even had my coffee. I didn't second-guess myself, didn't overthink, didn't allow the usual guilt to creep in and start building excuses for the people who'd been bleeding me dry for years. I sent screenshots, account records, and the audio recording of my mother admitting she opened a credit card in my name. By 2 p.m., I had signed documents authorizing a civil suit against both Marcy and Cecily for fraud, theft, and unauthorized financial access. When the letters went out, I expected silence, maybe some dramatic texts or voicemails from my mother about betrayal or embarrassment. Instead, what I got was a string of increasingly desperate messages from Marcy. Long texts, crying voice notes, heart emojis thrown in like they were band-aids on a severed limb. Please, we're family. I was panicking. It was just one time. You know I'm under so much stress. I didn't answer a single one, but my attorney did, with subpoenas. What came back was worse than I'd imagined, not because it was criminal, though it absolutely was, but because it confirmed what I had suspected all along. None of this was accidental, and none of it was new. Marcy had taken the stolen money and gone shopping. Literally. Her bank records showed a $3,800 payment to a luxury boutique downtown, a deposit on a leased sedan she'd apparently picked up 2 days before the shower, a $600 charge for some ridiculous VIP mom-to-be spa club, and this part hit like a punch, $18,000 wired to an offshore account labeled Personal Retreat Planning. She wasn't drowning. She wasn't desperate. She wasn't scraping by for her child's sake or worried about diapers and bassinets. She was building an exit plan right under everyone's nose, with my name on the receipts. And the worst part? She almost got away with it. The only reason she didn't was because I finally said enough. I had spent years absorbing the damage, rationalizing it, minimizing it, trying to believe the best in people who had long since chosen convenience over conscience. But this time, I had proof, and I wasn't going to let it slide. When her attorney received the lawsuit paperwork, Marcy snapped. First, she tried blaming my mother, saying Cecily had orchestrated the whole thing and manipulated her into going along with it. Then she tried shifting it on to her ex-fiancé, Warren, claiming he'd pressured her to secure money for the baby without telling anyone. And then, this was almost laughable, she tried to pin it on me, telling her lawyer that my coldness, my emotional distance had forced her into a state of desperation. That was when my lawyer and I sent a simple, brutal message: repay the full amount, including emotional damages, or we file criminal charges. No loopholes, no more stalling, no more pitiful texts about the baby's needs or family loyalty. A week later, I opened my banking app and saw it, $6,174.29 returned from her account. Then came another transfer, $26,000, the amount she'd stolen. And finally, a third one labeled personal repayment, stress damages for $2,000. I didn't need a courtroom. I didn't need a judge. She folded the second she realized I wasn't afraid anymore. My mother was next. She didn't scream. She didn't send voice notes or weepy apologies. She sent one email: "You don't understand what this is doing to our family." I replied with a single line: "Pay off the credit card you opened in my name. Close it permanently and never ask me for money again." She did. Quietly. Through gritted teeth, I'm sure, but it was done. That was the end of their control, though they didn't realize it yet. I moved out of state within the month, packed my life into a storage truck, and drove north until Savannah was a name I heard in strangers' mouths, but never had to speak again. I landed in a small apartment in Asheville, a little worn, a little creaky, but mine in every sense of the word. No surprise visits. No borrowed keys. No one sliding their phone across the table with a smile and a problem for me to solve. The shift was slow but real. For the first time in my adult life, I started sleeping through the night without waking up to check my balance or calculate how long I could float a friend's emergency without wrecking my rent. I stopped keeping a running mental list of who might call next, what they might need, and how I'd explain myself if I said no. I deleted Marcy's number. I unfollowed everyone who had ever called me cold or selfish for putting myself first. A month after I left, I heard that Marcy had started selling her baby furniture online: crib, stroller, decorative shelves that spelled out the name she never publicly confirmed. Her lease car was gone. Her name disappeared from mutual friends group chats. Her baby bump photos vanished from Instagram. The filtered captions about blessings and new beginnings were replaced with silence. I didn't smile when I heard it. I didn't celebrate. I just felt free. Cecily called once, a number I no longer recognized. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was clipped and tired, just 3 sentences long. You've made your point. Don't forget who took care of you. Call me when you're done sulking. I deleted it. I didn't cry. I didn't feel guilt. I felt nothing, and that nothing was the most peace I'd ever known. Weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. Actual paper, hand-addressed. Inside was a note from my great-aunt Lorraine, a woman I barely remembered from childhood holidays. Always knitting in the corner, always quiet. Her handwriting was neat, sharp even. I saw what they did to you. I wish I'd said something sooner. They did the same to your aunt back in 1984. She never recovered. But you broke the cycle. I'm proud of you. I sat on my couch and cried. Not because I was broken, not because I was lost, but because someone had finally seen me. And then, one night, just before I turned off the light, I received one final message from Warren. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't long. It just said, "Thank you. You saved me from a life I didn't know I was trapped in. I hope you're finally doing something just for you." And I was. I wish I could say that once the money came back and I started over in Asheville, things quieted down. That's the story people love to hear, right? Something bad happens, you fight back, you win, and the world lets you rest. But the truth is, when people who depended on your silence realize you finally stopped whispering, they start screaming. Not just with their voices, but with guilt, rumors, desperation, and sometimes even threats disguised as apologies. The first sign came when a mutual friend forwarded me screenshots from Marcy's social media. She had reactivated her accounts and was in full spin mode, posting vague quotes about family betrayal and what it means to be abandoned in your hardest moments. Then came a carousel of maternity photos that had clearly been taken months earlier, but were now captioned like she was currently expecting. The image of her holding her belly, smiling through fake tears, had a caption that said, "They left me when I needed them most." But God never does. I didn't comment. I didn't message her. But others did, and eventually her mask started to slip. One by one, people who used to defend her in family group chats started falling silent. Her Instagram stories turned defensive. Not everyone's ready to be a parent. Not everyone's cut out for loyalty. She wasn't talking to strangers anymore. She was talking to me. But I didn't answer, and that silence spoke louder than any fight we ever had. My mother, though, she escalated differently. She called again, this time from a number I didn't recognize, leaving a voicemail full of cracks in her usually composed voice. "You don't understand what this is doing to your father. He's barely sleeping. We just wanted to protect Marcy. She's going through so much. You used to care." I deleted that message too, because if I listened long enough, I knew I'd start doubting myself again, and that door was sealed now, bolted shut from the inside. Then came the last straw. A message from the bank. A flagged inquiry into a dormant savings account I hadn't touched since college. When I thought I had closed. When I called the bank to investigate, the representative hesitated for a moment before telling me that someone had recently attempted to access the account online using my social security number. When I asked where the request had come from, the location matched my parents' address. I didn't need confirmation. I already knew. I called my lawyer immediately. We issued a cease and desist and had a formal warning delivered to both my mother and Marcy. The letter made it clear. One more attempt to access my accounts. One more misuse of my identity. And we pursue full criminal charges without warning. For the first time since this all started, I felt no hesitation. They had shown me who they were. My only mistake had been not believing it the first time. A few days later, my neighbor brought over a package that had been left at their door by mistake. It was addressed to me, but I hadn't ordered anything. Inside was a small white box, no return address, no note. Just a gold bracelet, the exact one I had bought Marcy 2 years ago for her birthday. I recognized the engraving. For the one who always shows up. It felt like an apology. It also felt like a threat. I closed the box, threw it in the back of my closet, and poured myself a glass of wine. Around that time, I started receiving emails from a few of my mother's old friends, women I hadn't spoken to since childhood. One said she'd always admired me. Another wrote, "You didn't deserve any of this. Your mother used to brag about how independent you were while taking credit for your success." I wasn't sure how to respond. I wasn't sure I wanted to. But each message reminded me that I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cruel. I had just been tired of bleeding for people who called me cold whenever I asked for a bandage. Then came the final unraveling. Someone from Marcy's old church posted a public story, tagging no one, but leaving no room for confusion. It talked about manipulation, about stolen generosity, about pretending to need when you're really just taking. It didn't name her, but it didn't need to. The comments filled up fast. A few people defended her. Most didn't. One person wrote, "Isn't this the girl who threw a baby shower funded by stolen cash?" Another added, "Funny how she's been broke for years but still managed to travel, shop, and decorate like a Pinterest ad." Marcy deleted her profile that night. My mother called again the next morning. I didn't pick up. The voicemail this time was short. "You made your point. I hope it was worth it." I listened once, then deleted it like all the others. Because it was worth it. Every second, every document, every reply I never sent. Because silence had cost me more than speaking ever could. And just when I thought it was finally over, I got a letter from the county courthouse. Marcy had filed a counterclaim, alleging emotional distress, claiming my actions had caused her to lose relationships, social standing, and peace of mind. I laughed when I read it. Actually laughed out loud. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer, who responded with one sentence: "This won't hold up. But if she wants a court date, we'll give her one." She didn't. 3 days later, she withdrew the claim. Another message came from Warren, brief, steady, and quietly devastating. "She's trying to move in with a new guy? He has no idea. I tried warning him. He blocked me. She'll burn through him like she did the rest. Just be glad you got out before it consumed you too." And I was. I really, truly was. There wasn't some dramatic final explosion. No showdown. No broken dishes or screaming outside a courthouse. The end didn't come with sirens or spotlight. It arrived quietly, like most endings do, in the slow disappearance of people who once took up too much space. And for the first time, I didn't try to stop anyone from leaving. I didn't respond to my mother's final message, the one where she wrote, "I forgive you," as if she were the victim, as if she were the one learning to walk again after years of being tripped by people who claimed it was accidental. I stared at it for a long time before deleting it without a reply. That was the moment I realized I didn't need an apology from her. I didn't even want one. What I wanted, what I had built, was distance and peace. I wish someone had told me how quiet life can be when no one is draining it out of you. I started waking up without dread. No bank alerts, no frantic phone calls about emergencies that were just poorly veiled demands for money. I picked up painting again. I joined a book club that didn't require me to explain my presence. I went on a date with a man who asked me, not what I did for work, but what made me happy. I told the truth for once. I told him I liked to paint. I liked quiet mornings. I liked being alone, not because I was afraid of people, but because I had finally found peace in my own company. And the thing that surprised me the most was how little I missed them. I didn't miss the calls. I didn't miss the fake apologies. I didn't miss the way I used to rehearse conversations in my head before every holiday, trying to predict what Marcy or my mother would throw at me next. There was nothing left to miss. Only the slow rebuilding of what had been neglected for too long. Me. Every so often, someone still tries to guilt me back into the role I abandoned. Distant relatives, old neighbors, even mutual friends who only heard one side of the story. "You should talk to your mom. Family is all we've got. Marcy's had a rough time lately. Don't you think it's time to move on?" But I don't answer. Because here's what I've learned. Family isn't who shares your name. Family is who respects your boundaries. Family is who doesn't use your love like a credit card they never plan to pay back. 2 months after everything fell apart, I received a letter in the mail. This time, from Lorraine again, my great aunt who had written me once before. Her words stayed with me longer than anything else. She wrote, "I watched them hurt you. I watched them twist your kindness into weakness. I saw it, and I said nothing, and for that, I'm sorry. But you stopped the cycle. You did what the rest of us were too afraid to do. And I want you to know I'm proud of you. I sat in my tiny kitchen, sunlight pouring across the floor, and cried. Not because I was in pain, not because I was angry, but because someone had finally said what I needed to hear without me asking for it. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I wasn't cold. I was just the first person in my family who got tired of bleeding. A few weeks later, I heard that Marcy had moved in with someone new. Another man. Another fresh start. I didn't feel anything. Not pity. Not rage. Nothing. Because I'd already given her everything she could take from me, and now she was just another name in a closed file. She'll do it again. That's who she is. But this time, it won't be on my dime. It won't be with my name. It won't be at my expense. As for my mother, I haven't heard from her since the last message. No surprise visits. No calls. No apologies. And if she ever does show up again, I'll answer the door the same way I answer the world now. Calm, clear, and with boundaries made of iron. Because forgiveness isn't an invitation. It's a door that closes softly from the inside. These days, I live small, but I live well. My apartment isn't fancy, but it's full of things that are mine. The bookshelf I built, the painting I finished, the old couch that no one has ever cried on asking for help. And the best part? My phone stays silent. No emergencies. No urgent requests. No sudden tragedies that conveniently fall on payday. If you've ever been in my shoes, if you've ever been told that love means giving until you're empty, let me tell you the truth. Love doesn't look like theft. It doesn't come with guilt trips and emotional invoices. You are not a bad person for saying no. You are not cold for protecting your peace. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. They call me selfish. They called me cold. Now they call me gone. And I've never felt more whole.